Hi everybody and welcome to another episode of Daddy's Kitchen. Now last time I made a bolognese, which is a tomato meat sauce, but as you saw it was more than tomato, it was cream, it was wine, broth, it was all kinds of things. So not really a tomato sauce. This time I'm making only a tomato sauce. Now what do I need for that? Butter. I like it with a lot of tomatoes, so I have about 7-8 tomatoes. Onion, you know, I do like onions, and of course garlic. Let me not forget olive oil. In the past, I've had this dish for possibly as far as I can remember. I used to have it back in Guatemala. I would always try to remake that sauce, but it would never come out, the same. There was always something missing until finally Chata is my aunt, and you can see her picture. It's one of the pictures on the banner of the channel. She gave me the secret. She said, this is the way you do it. And ever since then, I've been doing it and it comes out exactly as I remember. Now, what's that secret? Not so much of a secret. Maggi. I'm sure you use it for other things, but this is what kicked it up a notch. Here we have what we need: basil, tomato, onions, garlic, butter. That's it. Very simple. And the pasta. Normally I recommend using and this one you can use spaghetti, you can use perhaps maybe fettuccine, but you can use a tube pasta if you like. Normally my protein is going to be chicken, but this time I thought, you know what, I'm going to make it a little bit interesting. My son wanted meatballs, so he asked, hey Dad, why don't you make meatballs? So I'm like, you're going to mess up the recipe, but you know what, it's called Daddy's Kitchen for a reason. So this time I'm going to make meatballs. Now usually when I make my meatballs, I like to mix the meat. Okay, so I have about 1.5 pounds, maybe a little bit more, of beef and about 1.25 pounds of pork. You can use Italian sausage already. Comes with flavors, with other stuff, so it adds a little bit of a kick to it. But since I don't have Italian sausage, pork is fine. I'm just gonna add the kick myself. What do I need for that? This is 1 cup of Parmesan. Now you can use Romano, you can use Pecorino, but again, remember when you're dealing with these cheeses, remember the salt, okay? Because you can go over the salt, and it's always better if a dish needs salt than if it has too much salt, because you can always add a little bit of salt. Here I have dry basil. I have about 3 teaspoons of basil. I also have kosher salt. I have about 2 teaspoons of kosher salt, and a little bit of a kicker. If you've ordered pizza before, you know what these are. This is the crushed red pepper little packets that they give you. So I added about 3 or 4 of them, and I'm gonna mix it with the meat. Now I'll either use these onions, chopped onions, or a fresh onion where I'm gonna chop and use that. Okay, I need milk and breadcrumbs. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to soak the breadcrumbs in the milk for about 30 minutes or so, and then I'm going to mix it with everything. I have about 2 cups. Okay, now remember I'm making about 2.5–3 pounds of meat, so it's going to be a lot of meatballs. Why a lot? Because meatballs are great. You make them, you store it, and you forget it. So you can store them in the freezer for about, I would say, it can go 3 months, 4 months. And then take them out, and kids want meatballs, take them out, put them in a sauce, heat them up, and they're good to go. So I'm making a lot. So if you want to cut your recipe, your dish in half, just cut all the rest, all the ingredients in half. So instead of having 2 cups of breadcrumbs, you would do 1 cup. So I'm going to take half of these breadcrumbs and I'm going to soak them in the milk. How much milk? About 1 cup. Okay, and then I'm going to mix it with everything. One thing it's not on the picture here is parsley. I know sometimes the recipes will call for dry parsley. You know what? I got parsley. It's fresh. Chop it up and use it. Hopefully you'll like it. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. Why? Because sometimes I may surprise you with recipes that may bring you to your past, or it may remind you of something. If there's a recipe that you've always wanted to try, you know what? I'll test drive it for you. Let me know what it is, and I'll see if I can make it, and if not, we learn together. Hope you have fun. Okay, so we're back. So what are we doing? We're going to mix, remember I have 2 cups of crumbs, that's about enough, and then I'm going to use about 1 cup of milk. I'm going to let her rest for a while. I'm gonna go ahead and mix all the ingredients. So I got the meat right here. Okay, wash my hands. I'm going to bring in, okay, this. I may put a little bit of oregano. I'll try it and see. Okay. Here's the cheese. Okay. So we are good right here. Now I need the onions. Okay. So let me chop up the onions, and that'll be next. And also I'm adding 2 eggs. I'm gonna beat those eggs so that way the eggs can hold the meat together as it's baking. Okay, everybody, here we are. So we waited enough. So here are the crumbs. So I'm gonna go ahead and dump them in here. Those were the crumbs in the milk. Okay. Let me get one of these here. So make sure I get everything. Ooh, I can already smell it. So that's done there. Now you can use your hands. I actually prefer to use my hands sometimes, and I guess I'm gonna have to get dirty. This again, that's the salsa inglesa. So now I can go ahead and start mixing this. As I mix it, I'm going to be adding the eggs. Okay, they're already beaten, and that's gonna hold everything together. Okay, it's pretty much mixed. So now I can add the egg. Okay. Now in the meantime, I also am preheating the oven, 400 degrees, and depending on the size of the meatballs, usually 30-40 minutes, but it's all going to depend on the size. You can do small ones, but if you like big meatballs, then a little bit longer for them to cook. But don't cook them too long because then they become too dry. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the meatballs. A little bit of water. Okay. And I'm gonna run them over this. Okay. And that's how I do it. Now I'm not gonna have you watch this while I do all of them, but I just wanted you to see how I do at least one. I'm doing the second one. You try to keep. I don't have a measuring tool right now. Okay. Now in the tray that I put them, I sprayed it with oil. Okay. So that way they don't. And you want to give them a little bit of space, not too close. So as you can see, I did 2. One is big meatballs, if you are into big meatballs, and then the other one is the normal size. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and bake them for, again, these probably about 25 minutes or so. These more like 35, maybe 40 minutes. You always want to taste, see how they are, midway through the heating, the baking process. Of course, I have a couple of testers who are willing and able to taste and see if they need a little more baking time. Now it's time to get on the sauce. Okay, so while the meatballs are baking, I already cut a little more than half of a onion. So now I'm preparing the garlic. So dice finely. I think that may be enough, but of course it's not. It's never enough. It's never enough until you get an extra garlic. You thought I was going to sing a song, but it's not. I think one more will do the trick. Okay, I think this will do it. So I'm going to get the butter and the olive oil going. So when that's ready, then I'm gonna add the onions, wait a little bit, and then add the garlic, then wait a little bit for that. Don't let it burn. Okay, just let it get a little brown, and then I'm going to add the tomatoes. So I'm gonna go ahead and dice all the tomatoes, so that way they'll be ready when the time comes. Okay, so we got the oil and the butter going. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to add the onions. Okay. So those are the onions. And then I'm gonna add the garlic. I probably will not film because I figure you know how to put garlic. So just, ooh, I can smell it. It's gonna be good. So as you can see, this is a very simple recipe. Very, very simple. All you have to do, again, tomatoes, onions, garlic, butter, olive oil, and pasta of your choice. Linguine, maybe fettuccine, spaghetti. So it's really very simple. It doesn't take that long to make. The difficult part was the meatballs. That takes a little while, but as you saw, we got them done. They're baking, so now it's just a matter of the sauce. Okay, so at this point, I just wanted to show you how it looks. So you see they're taking a little bit of a brownish color, not yet. So probably another 5 minutes or so. I'm gonna go ahead and add the tomatoes, and then let all those flavors marry. And then I'm gonna add the Maggi, the secret. In the meantime, what I did was I went to the oven, and the meatballs, the little ones, I went ahead just like a donut. You would flip it. I went ahead and I flipped the donut, the meatball, so it was brown at the bottoms, and now it's browning the top. The bigger ones take a little bit longer to cook, but they should be ready in, the little ones should be ready in about 5, give or take 5-10 minutes. The bigger ones probably have another 20, okay? So this is actually may not be 10 minutes, it may be 5, because I'm looking at this and I don't want it to burn, but right now I could smell the aroma of the garlic, the onions, and once I add the tomato, ooh la la. Okay, so as you can see, the onions and the garlic are ready for the tomato. So you see the color, okay, not burned, but brown, okay, and that's what you want. Okay, so they release all their flavor. So now it's time for the tomato. Okay, yes, that's a lot of tomato. Like I said, 7, 8 Roma tomatoes, and this will become the sauce. You don't need to add anything else, maybe a little bit of salt and pepper, a little basil at the end, but this will become the sauce. If you need more tomatoes, feel free to add tomatoes. Now here you want to mix the butter, the garlic, the onions, and of course the tomato, and then just wait. The tomatoes are going to release their juices. Once they release them, then that becomes part of the sauce, and that's when you add the Maggi. Okay, so now let's give it another 10-15 minutes, and it should be ready. Okay, like I told you, and you can see here the juices of the tomatoes are releasing. So there you go, and that will become the sauce. The tomatoes will soften a lot. And then here, I tried some white wine for me to drink, and also for the sauce. Maybe add a little bit of pepper if you want, and then at the end the basil. This will become the sauce. You will see how everything is softened and it'll become like a sauce. So here I wanted to show you the small meatballs. They're ready. Okay, a little spicy actually. So if you don't like spice, you don't like spicy, not that spicy, but if you don't like it, don't add the chilies. In my case, I do like it, and my kids like it. So here you go. They're still very moist inside, and that's the key. I can either later on add them to the sauce or just put them on the side. Okay, but this is what they look like once they're done. What I did is off camera, I added about half a cup of dry wine, okay, to make it saucier, and then I added about 2 spoonfuls of the Maggi chicken bouillon. Okay, so now it's just a matter of waiting for all the flavors to marry. And in the meantime, the water is boiling for the pasta. For this one, I'm going to go ahead and use linguine. Okay. Towards the end, I'm going to add my fresh basil, and that should be the end. And it should taste pretty good. So hopefully, again, you'll try it at home, and you'll let me know, how it came out. Hopefully, you like it. And again, it's easy. Okay, so the sauce is almost done, as you can tell. Again, it needs a little bit of a greenery. So what better herb than basil? Cut a little bit of basil. Mix it in. Now, I don't put all the basil now. Once the dish is done, then I'm going to add a little bit more so it doesn't cook all the way. This is just to mix it in with the sauce. The pasta, I want it to be al dente, meaning not fully cooked, because I'm going to add it to the sauce. And then if I want, I add the meatballs. Now, if you're a vegetarian, then this is the perfect dish because you don't have to add the meatballs, neither the chicken. So you can just have the pasta with the sauce and a little bit of drizzle with a little bit of olive oil and some Parmesan cheese, and you're good to go. So the pasta, even though it's not done, I'm going to add it. One of the tricks that I have, there's actually another trick, you copy it. You use some of the water that you use to cook the pasta and you add it to the sauce. Because all that starch and all the goodness from the pasta, you can add it to the sauce. Okay, so now I can mix it in. And let it cook for a little bit more. And again, if you want, you can go ahead and add the meatballs now or just put them on the side. It's up to you. I'll go ahead and take a picture once the dish is done. And don't forget to drizzle your pasta or your plate with some olive oil. Okay, there you go. Buon appetito.